Hello and welcome to the Liverpool Way podcast. We're midway through the World Cup break, but just like Hendo, Trent and Jude, we just couldn't stay away from each other. We'll be checking in on the progress of the Reds representing their countries and looking excitedly at the growing possibility Bellingham could soon be one of them. We'll also be looking at the tournament through red-tinted specs, touching on other LFC-related matters and also tackling some questions from the listeners. I'm Chris Smith, and with me are Julian Richards, Stu Montagu and Dave Usher, the editor at liverpoolway.co.uk. Dave, what seemed like wishful thinking just a few weeks ago is now being reported as a probability. Jude Bellingham to Liverpool, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think we've been saying for a while he's probably going to go to City or Real Madrid. I think since the World Cup started and just watching him, and the fact he's never left Hendo's side the entire time, or if he has, it's because he's been with Trent. I think that tells me a lot. You can. Basically, I just think, right, if he was going to Man City, he would not be hanging about with Trent and Hendo. He just wouldn't. Let alone be as completely over the top. He's just with him all the time, and he's did you see the video the other day with the Real Madrid fan who was saying to him, you're the best centre midfielder in the world, and he was shaking his head and he was nodding and pointing at Hendo. It's he is, and it's oh, come on, he's not signing for Man City. That would be the biggest heel turn of all time if he went and signed for Man City after this. Real Madrid, different matter. That he, in theory, he could still hang out with Hendo and Trent and still sign for Real Madrid. I just don't see it. I just think it's obvious that it's happening, and it's just going to be a case of if they can do it in January or if they have to wait till the summer. But I'd be amazed now if he ended up going somewhere else, because it just seems clear that Bellingham himself, in his own mind, that's where he wants to be. He wants to be playing with Trent and Hendo coming to play for Liverpool. I think it's, I'd be staggered now if it didn't happen.
Good stuff. And Stu, the report this morning from Christian Falk, I think his name is, the reporter, he says it's kind of very, very close. There's been talks with the family. They're keen for him to come to Liverpool, as is the agent. And do you think that it's now likely? And if so, January or probably the summer?
From all the noises coming out, it sounds like it's a thing, doesn't it? It sounds like it's going to happen. I've been pretty super cool about it. I know that we've been laughing about it because Paul's been pushing for it since, it must be
since he gave up on Mbappe.
Yeah, maybe 18 months he's been pushing aggressively for it.
Yeah.
And I've just always thought that the money was maybe going to be too much, and that maybe go somewhere else, because it starts getting to the point where we don't sort of spend that sort of money. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like from the noises coming out of Dortmund, and then little things, as Dave's saying, just watched him join the tournament, and then you're putting things together like his favourite players, Steven Gerrard, and then logically you start convincing yourself. You're like, well, why wouldn't he want to play for Jurgen Klopp? He's clearly an all-action. You've seen him in the tournament. He's this barnstorming midfielder who gets up and down, and it feels like he'd be wasted with Pep Guardiola. I mean, I think Guardiola's a genius, but if you're that type of player, surely you want to be playing for Jurgen Klopp, don't you? If you want to become the greatest midfielder on the planet and this box-to-box colossus, then yeah, you want to play for Jurgen Klopp, and you just sort of convince yourself that it all makes sense. Of course, it's perfect. I think for Dortmund, what's the incentive for them to sell him in January unless he really wants to push for it? So maybe it's his decision. He's said he wants to go now, because they're still in European competition, aren't they? So it feels like we're going to have to pay a little bit of a premium, aren't we, to wedge him out of there 6 months early?
Yeah.
Unless he's had maybe he's had an agreement with them. Maybe he's had a gentleman's agreement that he just gets to go when he says he gets to go, as long as as long as we stump up 100 million.
Well, did you hear that guy the other week, Stu? I think he's the sporting director or something.
Yeah,
and he done an interview. Was it on TalkSport? I don't know. He done an interview with someone, and he actually said, "We'll sit down with him after the World Cup and ask him what he wants to do."
Yeah.
And he was kind of talking as though if Bellingham says, "Yeah, I want to go," now, then it's like, oh, we said we want him to stay, but we'll sit down with him and we'll ask him what he wants to do, and then we'll take it from there. And I just thought, why are you sitting down with him after the World Cup? Why would that not wait until like later in the season? You know, they don't need to do it like so urgently unless there's a chance that something will be happening in January.
He's also said that Liverpool's his preferred destination, hasn't he? I think it was the CEO or the managing director or something. He dropped a couple of comments that says that, you know, of all the Premier League clubs, he would prefer to sell him to Liverpool. So it just feels like things have been going on in the background, because for all the criticism that the club gets, that is one thing we've done regularly, is we just do deals on the quiet mostly, don't we? Things get done behind the scenes. You know, the likes of the Diogo Jota deal got done. No one was expecting that. It just came out of the blue.
Fabinho as well. Remember that one?
Yeah, we are pretty good at getting stuff sewn up. So it might be the case that it's already done, and they just can't announce it until we go out.
It looks that way, doesn't it? You know, like it just watching Bellingham himself, and like the way he is, like with Hendo and Trent, it does kind of look like they all know.
Yeah, there's nods and winks a little bit, isn't there?
Like Hendo, when someone asked the two of them, "Oh, will you be signing for Liverpool?" and they both went, "Oh, you've ruined it now." They walked away and ended the interview, and they were laughing, which obviously that puts them in a really difficult spot. They can't really say anything because, you know, you can't say no, because if it is happening, then you're going to look stupid. But you can't say yeah, because it's disrespectful to Dortmund and everything else. So they have to just walk away from it. But when they said about him signing for Real Madrid, and Hendo was like, no, he's not going to sign for Real Madrid. I'm like, well, if he was signing for Real Madrid, why would Hendo say that and like, you know, and have that come back to haunt him? So as you say, it's like nods and winks and stuff, and it just all looks like the three of them, like Trent, like posting that on Instagram, me and me bro out for a walk and stuff, and then it's like the letting us know without letting us know. You know, it's all like nods and winks, because they know anytime they say anything, they know like the reaction. The fans are all going to be, we're watching for all these little clues, and we're all going to be all over everything. Just by like the way they've been carrying on, I just find it like really hard to believe that it's not a long way down the line. Now, the only thing that you would say is, it's the point you made, Stu, about like, can we afford it? Would we spend that much money? I think it must it must already, like, we must know how much it's going to cost, and we're still in there. You know, we haven't walked away from it, so that would lead you to think, well, okay, you know, presumably they're not scared off by whatever the fee is, and they'll hopefully get something done.
Yeah, it might be when which payment goes when, and over what sort of time period we have to pay, that sort of thing. That might be what they're wrangling about.
Yeah, definitely. Jules, you've been quiet so far, but all of the sort of little, as Dave said, the little activities on Instagram and stuff, the little nods and winks, it's almost like when you know those two people in the office, both the TV show and in real life, where it's like they've got like a little bit of chemistry, and you know that they're either banging or they're gonna bang at some point. Like Jim and Pam, it's kind of like everybody can kind of see it, but it's not really like official yet. Is that the way you feel? And I know, like, talking about cute little moments in the England squad probably isn't your favourite subject at the moment, but I've been sort of like looking away at all this little bit of content and sort of like smiling away at every little bit of it. And when it comes to England, that's a real fucking rarity.
I've seen little to nothing of it. I haven't looked at any of England's stuff. I haven't clicked on any of the links when they've been in the group chat. I couldn't give a shit. I'll only give a shit when he's signed. I can't be arsed for this. I cannot
Why
be
can't
arsed.
you give a shit? It's fun. It's lovely.
No, I don't care.
Should give you the warm fuzzies.
No, it's like -1 outside, and I'm here to pour cold water all over your roaring fires of excitement over roaring passions. I genuinely haven't seen any of the stuff, because, with the exception maybe the Trent picture, because since Elon Musk bought Twitter, it just throws things up in your timeline now from about days ago that someone you don't even know has retweeted. So I've seen that, but I haven't seen any of the other stuff. The video, like the best midfielder thing. If he signs for us, great, fantastic, be dead excited. But I can't read into this stuff, because it only takes Manchester City to go, what? All right, how about we give you 750,000 a week? Done. And then it's a lot to turn down. If you're 19 or whatever, it's a lot to turn down. Like, to be on £3 million a month, and so I can't I can't really get excited about it until it happens. And I haven't. You're right. I haven't been keeping track of England's World Cup antics. Oh, it's so great watching them all have fun over there. I love it. Thoroughly exciting.
I can't even think of a single reason why you wouldn't be just loving it so much. To be honest, Jules, it's baffling me.
Yeah, it's a real fucking mystery.
You must have watched some of the games though. I mean, at least one game.
I watched one game, but you know what?
And you watched it to the bitter end. That's the mad thing.
Do you want to hear what really is mad? I was thinking, like, do you know what? Everyone's going mad over Bellingham. I haven't really seen much of him, and then I thought, well, what's the full game with England? And I've blanked it. I've totally blanked it. I only saw the red shirts sprawling about. I saw nothing else. It was such a letdown that, like, I watched it till the end, but it wasn't. It was like shell shocked. I wasn't really taking in what was going on. I was just like, I will watch this. And I've turned off Liverpool games earlier when Liverpool, you know, have had a better at getting back into games than Wales are, and I've still been like, no, I'm turning this off. This is shit. I can't have this. But with Wales, it was different. It was like more like a fierce loyalty. You know, we got there. I will watch it, but I didn't take any of it in that England game. Because England are, you know, I knew this beforehand, but England are clearly much better, and they're quite a good tournament side. I'm not even 100% confident France will beat them on the weekend. I would think they would on form and quality of attacking options that France have. But I wouldn't rule out England winning, and if they do, that side of the draw is piss simple for them. They'll get to the final if they beat France. I have no doubt about that. And I'm telling you now, I cannot be arsed with England in a World Cup final either. I'm not interested in that. I'm not buying what that's being sold to me.
No,
and I wouldn't trust Argentina or Brazil against them either. The flakes. I would not trust them at all for it.
No, I don't trust any of them. To be fair, France probably the ones I trust the most, but.
And that's the French.
Yeah, I know. I don't fully trust them either. But no, just hopefully France can get it done, just so Jude can get his feet up for a couple of weeks before the big move, and we'll need him fresh for the second half of the season.
What I would say is, I don't really like. I wouldn't think it's the slam dunk that you all seem to think it might be. I would put the chances of him signing in January far lower. Paul's going to be spinning when he sees this. He's going to be absolutely fuming about it. But I think the January sign is even less likely. An announcement that maybe it'll be done for summer is likely. But sign in January, no.
Yeah, I think I'm probably inclined to agree with you on that.
Oh, he's talked you down. You've let him talk you down.
I didn't say anything.
I know, but I know what you were thinking, and now you've gone. Actually, yeah, he's right. You were getting dragged along with me and Stu, and now you've just gone and he's just dragged you down to his level.
Joined the EO train.
Yeah.
Okay. So sticking with England for initially, anyway. I did watch the Senegal game on Sunday, and Dave, like, for as much shit as he takes from England fans, Hendo was absolutely phenomenal. I thought he was probably, like, apart from Jude, among, if not their best player on the day. And even though I've got no love for England, it's always nice to see him sort of do himself justice and shut some people up.
Yeah, well, I can't even really say, oh, the shit he gets from England fans, because some of our own fans are just as bad, aren't they? Like you on Twitter, the shit that Hendo gets. But no, he was really good. I watched that game as well. I was obviously supporting Senegal, but it was hard to not be impressed with England after the first half an hour in which they were shit. Once they scored, you know, they looked really good, like, you know, free-flowing football. The top scorers in the tournament as well. Yeah, they are looking good. But I mean, Hendo didn't start, did he? The first game, he was like, you know, he wasn't expected to play that much. But he's forced his way into the team, and you know they're not going to leave him out now. The way he's playing, he's done really well. Plus, like the link up with Bellingham, and you know, Bellingham set up the goal for him. You see the celebrations afterwards and that, and you just like raising an eyebrow and like, okay, all right, yeah, I can see that. But I've got to admit, like, when that goal went in, the first thing I did was, like, in the chat, like, you know, Dan was like, "Oh, get in, Hendo," stuff. Mike, the first thing I did was just typed in "fuck off, Hendo," because I want them out. But once, like, I got over that initial, like, resentment of it, I'm pleased for him, like, obviously. But yeah, I still want them to get beat. But it's nice to see Hendo doing well.
I always have this sort of impression that Hendo is sort of quite disrespected by Southgate as well. I think I've said this on the podcast before. I think Southgate sort of has this internal resentment towards Hendo just because of how much everybody respects him and he feels threatened by it. And I've got not really anything like concrete to back that up. Obviously, it's just an impression I get based on some of the slights he's given to Hendo down the years. And sure enough, this tournament again, he starts with like Mason Mount and plays Bellingham and Rice in the two, Stu. But I just thought it was sort of night and day for England on Sunday when they left Mount out and put Hendo in the midfield and allowed Bellingham to push forward a little bit more. They just looked like the intensity of their play was much. It's kind of what we see when Hendo doesn't play for us, really. Like the intensity of the play isn't there, the tempo isn't there. Like the communication between the players isn't quite as strong. It's just, as much as I'm not an England fan, it was sort of cool to see.
Yeah, I think with England as well, and even with international football a little bit, they're not coached as much, so the systems aren't as cohesive as club teams and stuff like that. So I think the idea that character and having a serious player like Henderson in there, I think it matters. I think, and especially, they are mostly quite a likeable bunch, this England team. And down the years, it's been really easy to hate England because they're just, not just because when England win, all the worst people in the country are happy, but also because they're quite an unlikable bunch. Whereas this lot are quite likeable, but they're all quite. They all seem. There's a few young lads in there. It doesn't feel like there's any. He's got a bit of bite. He's got a bit of snap to him that some of them don't seem to have. And I think Southgate does respect him. I think I saw something. There was a BT documentary about Henderson, was it last year or something? And Southgate was on it, and he was praising him to the high heavens about what a character he is and what a man he is, and yeah, essentially he's the leader in that team, isn't he? Harry Kane's got the armband, but you can just see he is the leader. He's the alpha in that dressing room. And yeah, I thought it was I got a little bit giddy. The idea of when you were watching Bellingham and Henderson playing like that together, you did get a little. For the first time, I got properly excited about the idea of them playing together. And I'm a bit torn. I'm not totally against England at the moment, and the idea of Henderson lifting a World Cup does make me smile. I know, and again, you'd have to put up with all of the worst people being happy, but I think that is a little bit balanced out, that I could live with it if I got to see Henderson and maybe Trent lifting the World Cup. And for you boys, I think, it is a little bit worrying because I don't think France are as amazing as some people have made out. Although Portugal, I think England v Portugal, that would be an interesting one. I think Portugal might be able to shit out their way past England because England don't deal well with that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, I don't think France are the super powerful force that everyone's talking about that are going to blow England away. So it wouldn't surprise me if England edged a win in that game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Jules, I'm sorry to bring this one back on you, but the point Stu raised about like Hendo winning the World Cup, lifting the World Cup, like you look at that 66 squad and how sort of their names are indelibly etched on like entire few generations of football fans. Like if there's anybody from the current crop of certainly our players and footballers in general who deserve that level of reverence, it's probably him.
Oh, I'm sure it'd be great for him. It does nothing for me, though.
No, of course not.
Again, I don't. I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I'd be pleased for him, I suppose. But again, it's great for him. It would leave me ice cold, absolutely ice cold. I sound like a right killjoy here tonight. I'm really sorry, Bill. when it comes to England and the World Cup.
The bear, though, aren't I, to be fair.
But he wouldn't be. He'd be. I'm not saying he'd be like the forgotten man, but like he'd be like maybe Martin Peters or something. Someone who no one really talks about from the '66. He was involved. He played a big part, but all you ever hear about is like Jeff Hurst and Bobby Moore, Nobby Styles dancing. You know, I think
You're
Hendo.
saying Hendo should do the shuffle and then he can be Nobby Styles?
No, the shuffle's a Liverpool thing. If he did that, I'd be. But he wouldn't be lifting it anyway, because fucking soft shite would be, wouldn't he? So, Hendo would be like nowhere near it. No, it's the only thing I'd say is like with Stu saying there, I kind of relate to what he said, but just not as much. Like, I'm always 100% totally against England winning it, to the point where like I can't enjoy the tournament until they're out. It like really stresses me out. When they got to the final of the Euros, I took the dog out for a walk, and I'm just following it on my phone, and it goes to extra time. The dog was absolutely fucked by the time I got home, because I didn't want to go home while it was on. I was walking up and down the canal for hours, just like following it on my phone, because I was that stressed about like not wanting them to win. And the reason for it, it's exactly what Stu said. It's like them winning would make the worst people in the country happy. Now, it would also make a lot of decent people happy as well, but I'm a petty small man, and that's like, I can't rationalise it like that and say, oh well, I don't begrudge them being happy. I'm like, no, all like the worst people in this country will be the ones who are the happiest about it, which is why I always just, I can't want them to win anything, and I don't want them to win it now. But rather than be 100%, I'm probably at around about 95, maybe even 90, because Hendo's a factor, Bellingham's a factor. I tell you what though, if Bellingham doesn't sign for us, I'm going to be fucking totally fuming at myself for like for getting sucked in by all this. But I'm not even going to say Trent's a factor, because Trent's just like, you know, he's not going to get a sniff, is he? He's not really part of it. But the team's not that unlikable. There's a few in there with Phil Foden. I can't stand
Hang on. There's loads that are unlikable.
No,
I was thinking the other day, who is likable?
I'm not saying they're likable, but what I'm saying is you've not got Rio Ferdinand and Wayne Rooney and John Terry. Yeah, I despise Pickford. I can't stand Foden's face.
Kyle
Walker's a twat. Jack Grealish. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, take it back. You're right.
It's just there
Harry
are some
Maguire.
good lads.
Yeah, there's
Like
one like,
Saka
yeah, I
seems a
don't
nice
mind
lad.
Saka, and that's
He's got that Arsenal stink. He can fuck off.
I'm struggling now. Saka's all right, and Rashford, I suppose.
You won't be saying that when he's dancing at Anfield after he scored later in the season.
No, we're not going to. No, we're going to.
Unless we're pretending we're going to be good when the season starts back.
No, we're not pretending. We are going to be good when it starts.
Fucking hell.
And Arsenal's going to fall off a cliff. Jesus is injured now for a couple of months.
3 months.
That's the start of it. They got away with injuries the first half.
To
of the
be fair
season.
to Jesus, this is his busy time of the year. He can't be expected to be playing for Brazil and Arsenal. He's got other things on.
Yeah.
That was quality.
No, that's not quality. Next
He's
time he's
fuming
having
'cause
a go
he's
at
not
me for
thought of
dad
it.
jokes. No, next time you pull me up on dad jokes, I'm just going to bring this one up.
That's an uncle joke at very worst. That's not a dad joke.
We're splitting hairs.
I liked it anyway.
Thank you.
No problem. So, you know, we've talked England. They've got the game against France on Saturday. I think, regardless, it's a really interesting game that we'll sort of all be watching. Maybe not Jules, but I'm looking
I
forward
swapped
it
days
anyway,
to
just
work.
from a neutral point of view. Fair enough.
Hang on, so
but
you're
what
going to
about
be in
the-
work when it's on? Isn't that
What?
worse? Isn't that going to be...
No one will turn up to it. No one will turn up. They'll all be out. Don't worry
If
about
they're
it.
showing that in work, that's going to be well worse than...
Who's in charge of the fucking telly?
Yeah, I'd like to see you not put it telly on. Oh, no, that would be
Nice.
funny.
Yeah, riots. So let's have a look at, just have a quick look at some of the other World Cup stuff that's going on. Stu, Dave tells me that you've pretty much watched it all, or a great portion of it. I know not everybody has. I know Paul hasn't watched any of it. But can you sort of give us your thoughts on how some of the other Reds have been doing at the tournament, and who do you like, and is there anybody that you've spotted that you'd like us to keep an eye on in terms of signing, that kind of thing?
Yeah, of course, watched quite a bit of it. I think stand out probably Canate. I think had a good game when he got his game for France, but I think Varane's going to keep playing ahead of him, which is a bit frustrating. You'd quite like to see Canate get a few games if they're going to do well and win it. But other than that, I'm trying to think of any other Reds that have stood out. I'll tell you someone who did stand out, and I was joking about it, was I only saw the extra time of the Morocco-Spain game, and I couldn't believe the performance that Amrabat was putting in the midfield. It was incredible.
Everywhere.
He was playing like it was like 5 minutes in. So I'm joking anyway on Twitter, like, oh, never mind Bellingham, let's sign Amrabat. Anyway, next day I've noticed we're linked with him.
Yeah.
So I know it might just be paper talk, but
that's how content's generated, Stu. You started a story there.
Yeah, I thought I might check, see where they've got this suggested from. Is it me? No, but he loved the business. And
he did.
Who else did we get linked with? We've been linked with another midfielder, haven't we? The US lad, isn't it?
Musa, he looked really good, and Tyler Adams.
He's a monster.
We haven't been linked to Tyler Adams, but his boss, like, I'd like us to be linked.
Yeah, they just look like all action, box to box. The sort of players that. See, for me, I remember I was saying, I might have said it on a podcast before, when we were talking about Bellingham, about how we've got to go for this £100 million, £120 million midfielder, and we were sort of saying, weren't we? Well, maybe we just need 2 or 3 £30 million midfielders, and that'll get us back somewhere near where we need to be. I don't know. Maybe they're going to do a couple. Maybe if there's talk of a few others, maybe they're going to do a couple. But that Morocco-Spain game was actually, I enjoyed watching that because it was just Spain doing tippy-tappy nonsense, and then Morocco actually hurting them, and it was nice to see one of the underdogs go through. And for what's his name, Rodri, to be moaning the day after saying that Morocco didn't offer anything, it's like they kept going clean through, mate. So just because they've not got 85% possession, like, you were the team that didn't offer anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can't have Spain winning the World Cup with Rodri at centre half. That would have just devalued the tournament for me. Can't
Spain had got no balls. When it goes to pens, they're always going to lose. They've just got no balls, have they, Spain?
I was watching that shootout, and it felt like none of them could even. They felt it was sort of like beneath them to run up and take a proper penalty. You know,
the problem is they're so used to passing.
Yeah,
that's it.
Tippy-tappy.
That's got to be the death of that style of football for them. You know, when Germany got knocked out, and then they had the sort of the reboot, Das Reboot, and they sort of. I think that Spain has to go through a similar thing now, because they were wretched to watch, and they carried no threat whatsoever, even though they beat Costa Rica like 7-0 or whatever it was.
That's the shock of the tournament. The biggest shock of the entire tournament was Spain scoring 7 goals. Because it's always like 0-0, 1-0, isn't it? But Spain, no, fuck off Spain. And they left Thiago out, which is good for us, but you're looking at them going, well, yeah, you've got midfielders, but, you know, good young players. You've left Thiago out. Like, why is he not even in the squad?
Wild, isn't it?
I don't think they lose. I don't think they go out yesterday if they've got Thiago in the team, because we all know too well like the effect it has on us when he's not playing and versus when he is playing. And I think they end up winning that game, finding a way through, creating more clear-cut chances, and just they'd probably have too much for them, but they didn't pick him, and now they're out. And sucks to be them.
Probably scored a penalty as well.
Yeah, right. Well, none of them did they?
No, but
they all missed.
Thiago would have scored. Yeah.
You can subscribe to the Liverpool Way podcast on all the major platforms, whether it's Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon or Podbean. Just search for the Liverpool Way, leave us a review and hit subscribe to automatically receive all new episodes. You can also head to liverpoolway.co.uk and grab a TLW season ticket for just £3 a month. There's tons of exclusive content, including match reports from every Liverpool game, weekly Premier League roundups, the TLW diary and access to the members-only forum. Lastly, you can follow us on social media at The Liverpool Way on Twitter and at The Liverpool Way TLW on Instagram and Facebook. Somebody who I was impressed with, even though the scoreline didn't make you think it was that kind of game, but Alisson had an absolutely amazing game against South Korea the other day.
Yeah,
he pulled off about 3 or 4 world-class saves, and it wasn't really that important in the context of the game, but it was good to see him lighting it up when in the past he's been sort of on the bench for the lad at City, who is nowhere near his equal, let alone a better goalkeeper, in my opinion. So it was good to see him perform at his best. And apart from that, like, who else have we got at the tournament? There's Verge.
I have not seen a minute of Holland all tournament. Not for any particular reason. I've not deliberately not watched them, but I've always been doing something else. I know, everyone's calling them the Netherlands. It's like, I've always called them
Because
Holland.
that's the name
It's
of the
like,
country.
I know, but I've just always called them Holland, so I'm not going to just suddenly change overnight just because people have started saying Netherlands.
Just because people tell you it's wrong.
Yeah.
How did West Germany get on?
They beat Czechoslovakia in the first
No,
round.
it was Yugoslavia, I think, wasn't it?
Jules,
They've been
isn't
right.
there like a Seinfeld skit when it comes to Holland and the Netherlands, and
Oh, I can't.
it's like he's like, oh yeah, so it's Holland in the Netherlands, and they speak that it's Holland and the Netherlands, and they speak Dutch. Anyway,
Wasn't it Friends?
No, Chris never watches that, so we wouldn't know that.
No, he's
If it
tripped
was-
himself up there because they definitely did talk about that in Friends. I remember Joey talking about it. Chris is now thinking, shit, now they know that I watched Friends and I always said I never.
no, I saw a clip. The girls at school watched Friends, mate. Like, that's who watched Friends.
The men watch Red
Like-
Dwarf.
Yeah, precisely. And the Fast Show and Only Fools and Horses reruns.
I watched it all. I don't think I tell you what. If I was on Mastermind, I could do a specialist of shit comedies of the 90s. You think like? Do you remember that? I don't know if I've ever brought this up. The Chris Barry BBC One sitcom called Prince Among Men, where he played an ex-Scouse footballer who was get this, it was a bit of a stretch for Chris Barry, who was a bit of a knobhead. That was the thing. That was, I think that was one series on BBC One. There was another one, I think it was called Men of the World, that had John Sims in it about travel agents.
I thought you were going to go British Empire. Then.
So
You've gone
did I.
even more
Yeah.
obscure.
I'm
British
completely
Empire was class.
blown away by this. I didn't even know that existed.
Prince Among Men. You want to get the YouTube up for the theme as well. It was like a football type like theme. There was John Gordon Sinclair from Gregory's Girl. He had one called Nelson's Column where he was like a newspaper editor, a newspaper
I remember
writer on
that.
a shit.
Yeah.
And then your man Jim Broadbent had one called the Peter Principle. The Peter Principle is like when someone is over promoted above their station just because people think it's the next logical step, even though the person's clearly not right for it. And he was like someone. It was a bank, I think. He was someone shit. And then like the guys who did Red Dwarf, they had like an ITV one called the 10%ers about talent agents. That was shit and all.
Jules, are you taking us on a tangent to try and get as far away from the World Cup as possible here?
No, we still. I'm just
Those
saying, like,
wounds run deep, don't they?
shit 90s sitcoms of British sitcoms. So when I was watching Friends was like Friend, and the thing is, I was in Wales, so I didn't get Channel 4. We had S4 Monday nights on S4C when I was a kid.
Scorio.
Were immaculate. Yeah, but on the old Espedwarec, you'd have Scorio at 10. Then you'd have the American football big match with Gary Imlach at 11. And then at 12:30, you'd have Friends. And then at 1 o'clock, you'd have Frasier. Tremendous lineup. And in school the next day, felt like a real man after that. You're getting them going to bed at 1:30 at like 14 years old. Like, yeah, I've watched some sport, I've watched some foreigns, and I've watched some sitcoms. I know I'm primed, I'm ready to go. And then the alarm would go at 8:30, but I'm not getting up. It's too late. I've been up. I'm not used to this. But that was Monday nights on S4C. I used to love it. It's fantastic. Davor Schuker, when he used to play for Real Madrid, loved that. What a man.
All right.
Anyway, yeah, Netherlands are all right in the World Cup. Holland, well, they're good. They've been all right. They've looked decent, I think, because obviously the pool of talent is sort of misshapen. Like they've got some good players, but they haven't got the players that they used to have. But I think you know about like buzzing off all the videos of England and that. But like Van Gaal's been having a whale of a time at the World Cup by the looks of it. Like, and he's got the cancer or whatever. So it's like it's great to see him like being over there and like living his best life at the moment. So
Yeah,
I want him to do well just for him, like, because he left Man United under the cloud as well, so he's got brownie points for that.
Yeah. Speaking of the Dutch, what about that Gakpo, Dave? Because you haven't seen him. Stu, what did you think to Gakpo? Because we've been linked with him as well, albeit tenuatively, and it seems like United is probably the more likely destination for him, judging by the reports.
I've only seen bits of the Dutch, to be honest. He looks... I mean, they're a weird side because they've got a couple of older players in there. They've got Davy Klaassen in there, which amazed me. I couldn't believe that. I was saying to the lads, even if Ronaldo had like lost a leg, I'd imagine he'd get in the squad ahead of Davy Klaassen. but then they've got a load of like really fit athletic guys as well, and he's one of them. He looks good. He looks to be a talent. One thing I was watching, Switzerland just popped into my head the other day. I was watching Shaqiri because obviously I think we've all still got like a soft spot for him.
Yeah.
And just thought he's like really unlucky to play for such a shit country, such a shit, boring country that haven't had any forwards really. Because he's knocking these lovely little passes about and he's got all these through balls in his locker and he's just got no one to play them to. Just mostly quite a boring 4-4-2, don't do anything, get to the last 16, go out team.
Yeah.
I just feel like he's a little bit unlucky that he, if you popped him in a more exciting team, more exciting country, I think he probably would have been an even. I mean,
he should be Brazilian.
He's actually brilliant. Yeah.
He's a bit like Gareth Bale, isn't he?
You fucking what, pal?
It's offensive to call someone Gareth Bale.
I was saying that the Swiss are missing the glory days of Stefan Chapuisat up front. That's when the Swiss had the old cutting edge.
The last good striker they had.
Yeah, I'll ignore the Gareth Bale remark. I mean, that man's a prince. I don't know how you dare. That remark is so cutting. I'm almost glad he scored that goal against us in the Champions League final now. That's how cutting that remark is.
That's a big leap, that, mate.
It is.
All right, fair enough. Know which side your bread's buttered then. Hey, you're like with that.
Yeah, my
Wales,
country.
Golf, Liverpool in that order.
Well, that's Dave. Especially the World Cup. Uruguay, Golf, Liverpool in that order.
Wales, but stick Uruguay there and maybe so.
There's someone we haven't talked about because they're out. Nunez.
I thought you were going to say Suarez then because I've got thoughts. I want to talk about Suarez.
I'm sure you've got thoughts. Do you know the only thing I've got to say about two things. I'm like this like Spanish Inquisition. Two things I've got to say about Nunez. One, that was a great bit of money you put on him there, Dead. Three things.
Blame Terry.
It was a great bit of money. All right. Did Terry take the money for you?
No, he talked us into it and then he didn't put it on himself. He was on the pod saying, yeah, look at his odds. He's like 50 to 1.
And the second thing is, he got a booking in that game. And I thought, you dickhead, you've still not learned from that Crystal Palace incident, have you? You're still doing stupid stuff for no reason whatsoever. You got to cut that shit out, man. What are you doing? And other than that, I have no thoughts. I'm sure you've got thoughts on Suarez crying. I'm sure Chris has as well.
Yeah, probably very different thoughts to mine. No, so the tournament starts and the only game I was looking forward to was Uruguay. I watched them in the first game and I thought they were shite, and Suarez just looked completely finished. All he was doing was I don't think he touched the ball. He was just chasing their defenders around, just closing them down, but not getting anywhere near them, and it was just painful to watch it. And then the second game, he was on the bench for that. He came on, but again, they weren't good. The thing with Uruguay, they don't start playing until they're getting beat, and I just put that on the coach, who's a massive shithouse. Like, the reason why they're out is because the coach is just the worst kind of shithouse. Like, the third game, they had to win that. So they went out, they attacked, they got 2-0 up, and then he shuts up shop, and he started taking off all his forward players, when all it was going to take was a goal for South Korea, and they were out. And then lo and behold, stoppage time, South Korea score, and then it's panic stations for Uruguay. But Suarez is off, Nunez is off, and they've got no attacking players left on, and they go out, and deservedly so, because the coach is such a shithouse. But the last game that they played, I was going into that game, I was like, this is not going to be good watching Suarez here. It's just painful. Like, he's washed up, he's finished. And we just got the full Suarez experience in that last game because he was good. He was nutmegging people. He had 2 assists, and I was like, yeah, he's rolled back the years here. This is boss. And he was doing that thing which, if anyone else is doing it, I'd hate it, but it was just funny whenever he did it. He'll get tackled and he'll roll round on the floor, and one hand will be holding his ankle or whatever, the other one will be over his face, and then he'll throw one of his arms up in the air and he'll be waving as though he's like on a battlefield and he's being shot, and he's just calling for like the medic to come over. And I've just got that like just ingrained in my head, because like that's his like signature move. It's just dead funny, cracks me up every time he does it. So I was really wanting them to go through, and then like, you know, the coach just basically shafted them. And then like when Suarez is on the bench, totally helpless, and he knows they need a goal, and he's trying to like, he's shouting at the team and he's saying to them, you know, you've got to score, and then he's just sitting there like with his shirt over his head, and he's crying, and the final whistle goes and he's sobbing, and it was horrible. I was like, I don't want to watch this World Cup anymore. That's me done. I'm signing off on this. This is just grim. And it affected me even the next day. I was walking around with my shoulders slumped, and I just had that, you know, when you just got that like just a heavy feeling like a cloud's over you. I had that the next day. I was fine the day after, but yeah, I didn't take Uruguay going out too well. But as for Darwin, again, I just think like the tactics of that team were just fucking awful. And he had nothing to feed off. He had like a few runs down the left-hand side where he was trying to make stuff happen, but he's got no service, and he couldn't really make much of an impact. But I don't see that as a reflection on him. I just think like you've got some really good players in that team. I mean, I absolutely love Valverde. He's fucking brilliant. He just reminds me of Gerrard. It's like so much like Gerrard. But again, he's like not that much of a factor just because of the tactics they're playing. Bentancur from Spurs is a really good player as well. So they've got like good players, but they're going out and playing like fucking Burnley. It's just really frustrating, and that's the reason why they got knocked out, because they should have gone through that group if they'd have actually attacked.
Yeah. Brazil versus Uruguay would have been fun as well, wouldn't it? Certainly a lot more than Brazil versus South Korea ended up being. So I feel like we got robbed of what would have been a sort of fun World Cup moment there with, you know, all those old war horses like Suarez and Cavani going up against the Brazilians.
Also, we have to
Brazil,
talk
Argentina might be tasty.
Suarez's comments as well when he got asked if he wanted to apologise to Ghana. Right. And he went, no, I didn't miss the penalty. And I'm like, well, he is right. He's completely right. But it was a chance to just like at least try to mend some fences a little bit. I'm not saying you got to go like the whole hog and apologise, but he could have been a little bit more tactful in the way he put it.
But he is totally right. There's a million things he can apologise for, but I mean,
the handball. No, don't apologise for that.
Don't apologise.
But I just think the only thing that he's really done wrong in that situation was it's not a good look when he was like hanging around on the touchline waiting for the pen, and then he's like fucking giving it the beans, celebrating when they missed. So I can see why Ghana hate him for that. Totally justified, Ghana hating him. What's not justified is anybody else piling on him for the handball, because any player on that pitch who's not prepared to do what he did should not be on the pitch. You know, in that situation, you've got to do what he did. And if you don't do what he did, you've got no business being there. So, you know, there's nothing wrong with what he did, but he could have maybe, you know, at least said, yeah, I probably shouldn't have celebrated like that. And, you know, maybe like, of course, defence, yeah, maybe like, I'm sorry. But no, he doubled down on it. I'm like, okay, fair enough. It's probably a good thing that they subbed him in that game, by the way, because going into that game, I was thinking, oh, fucking hell, if Ghana know they're going out, and Suarez is still on the pitch at the end of that game, someone's taking him out just to make themselves a national hero. So it's probably a good thing that he did get brought off before the end, because somebody would have definitely wanted to make a name for themselves there.
Don't you think, though? Something I've noticed from watching this World Cup is like, I feel like the African teams are one of the last like bastions of generally sort of like playing the game in the right way. Like, they're not shithousing everywhere, and they're like you know, I don't think they're really they're not the heels of the tournament, whereas the South Americans and most of the European teams, you know, they're
Portugal
more versed in the dark. Yeah, exactly. More versed in the dark arts, and I've quite enjoyed watching I always do enjoy watching the African teams, even ever since I saw Cameroon beat Argentina in 1990. I always have a little bit of a soft spot for them, but
I enjoyed watching Senegal for half an hour, and then they conceded, and then that was that. Like, but
the only African team that played a bit like that was Egypt, and Queiroz was in charge when they got knocked out by Senegal in the playoff.
Horrible to watch.
You've got one of the best forward players in the world, and they shithoused the fuck out of that game. Absolutely dire to watch. Not interested in really playing, just stopping the game, slowing it down, breaking up play. I felt bad for Mo that they got knocked out, but like Senegal were absolutely vindicated in going through because they came to have a go and Egypt came to not bother playing at all. But obviously he rocks up at Iran somehow, like Carlos is just doing the rounds in the Middle East, even though Egypt's in Africa.
They're dull as fuck as well.
Yeah, they were. They beat us. So I really can't say fuck all.
Well, we're recording on Wednesday night, December 7th, and there's not a game now until Friday. I think the World Cup kicks off again, so there's a little bit of breathing room now between the quarterfinals, and so people can probably get a listen before seeing it. Like, let's go. Who's your pick to win it, Stu?
I've got Brazil in a pool that I've got with the footy lads, so I took a couple of punts on a couple of other teams. I've got a little long shot on Croatia, but I don't think they've not got enough to do it now. I don't think after watching them a couple of times. I think that midfield's mint, but I think they're missing. They're a bit toothless up top. Watching that Japan-Croatia game, it was just neither of them had any bite to them. So yeah, you feel like Brazil have got enough steel in there. You know, the idea that you don't need to play Fabinho because you've got Casemiro and a couple of others, and probably Brazil, and then maybe if I've got to pick someone else, you'd maybe go the winner of England-France. But Portugal did impress me the other night. Portugal really impressed me, and you think they could win it. I don't like them. You know, they're again full of shit houses. Like
Pepe, come on.
Has Fernandes ever made contact with another human being and not rolled around on the floor as if he's about to die? Ever? Pepe's Pepe.
You've got to admire Pepe now. It's gone past the point of hating him, and he's just like, I don't know. He's like 39. He's 40 in a few months, and
to still be going.
He's still out there doing his thing, and it's like, yeah, you know what? Like, he's quality Pepe. Don't mind him. I can't stand the majority of the rest of the team, but amazing what happens when you drop Ronaldo. All of a sudden, totally transformed team.
Drop the lad who doesn't run, you become a better team. Amazing, isn't it?
Mm.
Big fan of the lad who replaced him coming in and scoring a hat-trick as well. That was, he had to sit there on the bench sort of like pretending to be happy for him. That was a good one. Jules, who are you picking?
It is a bit boring because I agree with Stu. I think Brazil probably look the best and most likely. We were talking the other day in the chat, and Dave and I have long said that Brazil are like the football team that people that don't know football support because they're the most famous international team and the shirt's quite famous, and in all sort of other forms of media, Brazil are always the football team. So I always feel a bit cliche saying Brazil. And I don't usually want Brazil to win anything, but obviously Alisson's playing, and if the world's most handsome man can get a little bit more luck in his life, he deserves it. But I also think they've played some pretty decent stuff. I know they had a couple of tighter group games, but I think overall they've looked pretty good. I don't trust Argentina at all. No. I think they when they started and Di Maria was starting for them, I was like Face on the 18 credits when the Cylon walks past and he's like, what the Di Maria's still playing for them. What's going on here? But I would like to see them play Brazil in the semi-final. I think that would be excellent. Be bang up for that. Mm-hmm. And I also agree with Stu that I think the likely winner from the finalists from the other side is coming from that England-France game. And so I would say Brazil first, and then whoever wins England-France second, which is terrifying.
I mean, you say Brazil, it's a bit cliche to say Brazil, but they haven't won it for 20 years, and 2006 quarterfinals, 2010 quarterfinals, 2014 was the fourth place when they got routed by the Germans in the semis, and 2018 they got to the quarterfinals as well. So, aside from winning it in '94 and 2002, then their record since 1970 isn't.
They've got five
great.
Though, haven't they?
But yeah,
that's
I know
why.
what you mean. I take your point.
They've got five of them. That's why. And again, like Pele as well. The Pele factor. Never underestimate the Pele factor. He's on his way out. So there'll be a little bit of oomph for that. The other thing, again, I'm just repeating what Stu said, but like Portugal looked dog shit through most of the groups, and then last night they sort of like flipped the switch, the non-Ronaldo switch, and suddenly looked like there was less shithousing, more liquid football. So I don't really know what to make of them. Who have they got? Who they? Morocco. That'll be interesting.
That'll be tough. Morocco have been like really impressive.
You know what? Part of me would like Morocco to get through the semi-final. Nothing to do with like the joy of African football and all that. Although it is good for that. But it like just to see how far they would go. But then part of me thinks, nah, if England get through, that's way too easy. I can't be having that.
I'm the same. I'm exactly the same.
So my interest in seeing how far Morocco, because they haven't conceded a goal for, was it 1 in 8 or something like that? Is it more than that? My interest in seeing how far Morocco actually can go is tempered by my dislike of England going any further and having an easy ride.
Who plays first? Do England play before Portugal?
England are the last game, aren't they? They're Saturday night, 7 p.m. So they're the last game.
Because if England were out, then you could support Morocco. But if they,
I imagine it's going. That's Friday is Netherlands, Argentina, and Croatia, Brazil, and then Morocco, Portugal,
when
and
did
then
Holland
England.
play?
Hey, Holland.
When did Holland play?
They're playing on Sunday. Playing West Germany. Winner gets to play Czechoslovakia.
Sound.
And Burma.
I think we've done that one into the ground now. Can we retire that joke, please? Fuck's sake. I think, no, you make a good point, Jules, though, about viewing everything through the lens of England, because the great thing about the glory days of them getting knocked out in the group stages or just at the last 16 was I always felt you could fully enjoy the tournament from that point onwards. Like, once they were gone, then you can right, you're not looking at it through, oh god, well if they, because you can't root for an upset in the Morocco-Portugal game because you're worried that England might play them, but otherwise through every other metric that you want to place on it, like everybody's going to be rooting for Morocco in that game, right? So, but it's always easier to enjoy an international tournament without them.
The sad thing is, though, is that by acknowledging that, then we all have to acknowledge that England are actually quite good and have been for about 4 or 5 years now. And they've worked out how to do international tournaments.
Yeah, I'm still not acknowledging it.
They're
not shit. I'll give you that.
No, but they've had a semi-final of the World Cup, a final of the Euros, and they if they can beat France, and again it is a big if.
All right, St. George, settle down.
Yeah,
they still lose to the first good team they play almost all the time, don't they?
That is true, and that's what I'm hanging my hat on for Saturday.
Dave, who are you going with?
France. I thought France after watching the first game that they played, I thought, mainly just because they got the best player in the tournament. So unless he shits the bed and has a bad game.
Well, Rabiot.
Yeah, brilliant. No, it's if Mbappe keeps playing the way he is, then I think they'll win it. Because you'll often get best player in the tournament wins it, and then his World Cup. Here we go on, Stu. You can.
He fucking isn't.
Go on. Because you were ripping him in the group the other day, and then he fucking knocks in two.
He did.
He's like, look at him, he keeps losing the ball.
One of them was lovely, and one of them he just stood there, and two lads just let him smash it right at the keeper, and the keeper let it in. I just think I can't be doing with all the messy loving that was going on the TV, but you watched him one night, and he barely made a bad decision.
It's apples and oranges, though.
And he's got his end product was amazing, and everything he's doing is the most efficient way of hurting a team. And then Mbappe was just tossing about and losing it, and
then scored 2 goals and winning the game.
He scored 2 goals once the game was won. But I don't know. I just don't think he's quite at that level yet. When everyone's like, he's amazing. He's streets ahead of people. He's got the afterburners and he's got quality. Yeah, but I mean, you can't do that for 60 minutes against England. Just fucking give the ball away every time he gets it.
Well, he can if he scores 2 in the last half an hour.
Well, they'll get murdered if he just keeps. I just think you can't just keep giving the ball away and then what? Just going to let the likes of Rabiot sort it out in midfield. I don't want to see it. But
you leave Rabiot alone.
That French team could. I mean, I look at Henderson, Bellingham, Rice. That midfield could get overpowered. I mean, Griezmann's great on the ball. He's not that great off the ball. Rabiot, is he going to get about? Don't know. Tchouameni is all right. I think Camavinga's probably better than him, but it's just, I don't know. I just look at it and I just think, has it been tested yet properly, that French team? I don't know.
Well, I mean, they're also the holders So there's that as well. You know, a lot of these players have already won it before.
The other thing I'd say though is like it's very difficult these
Varane's
days for
old,
teams
Lloris
to
is shit.
retain the World
Yeah,
Cup. So they've
that's
won
fair.
it, you know. Yeah, that's the only thing. The only thing would stop me picking France, which is weird because it doesn't really matter. It's just a stat, isn't it? It doesn't actually apply when it goes onto the pitch. But the difficulty of retaining it would make me think maybe not France.
Chris?
I'm actually going to go with Brazil because I've been like super impressed with their attacking play and they look good all over the field. And if it's coming down to a final, I'm taking our goalkeeper over everybody else. So
Yes.
Definitely taking
yeah,
him over Lloris.
Alisson in the penalty
Right,
shootout
exactly.
in the final against England.
Would you be but just before we move on to some of the listener questions, here's a scenario for you, Jules. Are you happy for England to get to the final if it means they lose on penalties to Brazil and Alisson like saves all of their pens?
Oh, I'd pay you money for that right now.
Okay, but you'd be willing to go through the next week or so of stress to
Yeah, well, the thing
have
is, I
that
know,
outcome.
but no, because I don't know. You know, if you're telling me that I could take that now, then I'd be well happy and I wouldn't have the stress, would I? But if that was the outcome at the end of it, yeah, I'd be happy, be more than happy. England losing, that's all that matters.
Okay, fair enough. All right, that's good. Okay, right, we've not done this before, but it is something we're going to be looking to do in the future, especially after the games start up again. Is take some questions from the listeners who've been with us sort of like for 18 months now, and obviously we appreciate that support. And we've asked you to weigh in on a few of the burning issues and anything that you want us to talk about, really. And we did this on Twitter and on the forum. So I think the one I want to start with, because it's still kind of World Cup themed, is Real DPW 1979 on Twitter said, "Should we sign Suarez in January, Dave?"
No, only because I haven't seen like the way he was running. You know, this is probably the best way for me to describe what it was like watching Suarez. I was walking the dog like last week, and she gets like excited, so she's like really straining at the lead, wanting me to run, and I don't run anymore. I didn't run like when I used to run, if you know what I mean. So like I'm walking the dog, and the dog's wanting to run, so she's pulling at the lead, and her back gets all like hunched up, and she's straining, and she's pulling like she's towing a caravan. And I'm like, I was watching, I was like, that's how Suarez is running now. You know, he's chugging and like, just really like, so no, he's 12 months ago, I would have been up for it, but not now. I don't want him to ruin his legacy. He's too old now.
Okay. If you were up for it, I was going to be gracious enough to say that, like, I love you so much that I'd be willing to get on board with that, just because I knew it would make you so happy, just to see him
I appreciate
turn out
that.
for us like one more time or something.
I really appreciate that, because I know how much you can't stand him. So,
No,
yeah.
to be fair, like my stance has sort of slightly soft. I'm a sucker for when I see somebody cry. Like, I automatically like start feeling sorry for them. Like, I mean, maybe not something like United fans or City fans or anything like that, but like in life, I'm a sucker for somebody who cries. And seeing him all upset was, I wouldn't say it was hard, but I was like, oh, I did feel a bit sorry for him, and yeah, so that's that one. Mega Drive Man on forum, Jules says, how do you feel about the mid-season, pre-season Dubai Super Cup or whatever it is? Are you happy that we're there? Do you think it's a good idea that we've gone and we're playing sort of friendlies over there?
One thing I'd say about that is, you know, when Klopp's been going on about, oh, there should be a winter break, there's too many games and stuff. This is why there's no point in having a winter break, because as soon as there would be, the clubs would fuck off to the Middle East and play friendlies against glamour teams in Europe and to get more money. That's the only thing I thought when I saw that. They have to play games though, because this break is too long. What is it? It's like 6 weeks, isn't it? So you're gonna have to, otherwise everyone's gonna come back, you know, rusty in the fucking Tin Man at the start of Wizard of Oz. Do have to play them. So I've got no problem with that. And I've got no problem with a bit of warm weather training. It's freezing here at the moment. I've got no issue with that either. So in this context of the World Cup, it's perfectly fine to me. It makes sense. But it did make me think, if they had that winter break that they wanted, they would be straight on that plane and playing friendlies for money in the Middle East. And I'm not about that. They can bollocks with that. They can come here and play in the cold like the rest of us have to. And the only other thing I thought was, if you're out there at 30-degree weather and you come back here to 0, that's how you get colds and infections. That. Oh, wait, is Thiago going to get the sniffles now and be out for a couple of weeks? That was my other take from it. But other than that,
he did get that ear infection, didn't he? Where he was out for seemingly a couple of weeks. Mind you, I get ear infections all the time, and they're the worst thing in the world. So I've got all the sympathy in the world for that.
Yeah, it knocks your balance off, doesn't it? Your equilibrium goes.
Yeah. Keita will probably get COVID again. Keita's had COVID more than I have.
I'm not getting into the Keita thing, but no, does anyone here? I don't think anyone has a problem with going and playing these friendlies, because you have to. We've been like having some of the players. We had the international break, and like some of them. So Sarah playing for Egypt. Like, why are you playing for Egypt? What's going on here? Get your feet up. And then there's been a break. They've had a little break, and now they're having the pre-season. So it makes perfect sense. I think if you didn't have any proper friendlies, you'd be asking for trouble, especially considering how we started the season.
Good stuff. All right. And a long-time friend of the show, long-time friend of the forum, and the magazine and everything, going back to day one, really, is AWS. And he and the Midnight Rambler, both on the forum, had a similar question, really. AWS goes, do we sign a make-weight youngster in January, followed by a 100 million move in the summer for Bellingham, or 250 million players in the summer? And the Midnight Rambler goes, would you take Declan Rice and another 40 or 50 million midfielder instead of just going all in on Bellingham? Stu?
Don't rate Declan Rice. I haven't seen nothing for West Ham, but every time I see him for England, he doesn't impress me. Doesn't take the ball on the turn, doesn't want the ball off the centre halves, doesn't dictate play at all. So, not impressed. Wouldn't take Declan Rice if you offered him for buttons. Really, I just don't think he's at the level. Might be proven totally wrong, but yeah, I'm not sure that he is the midfielder that you want in a team like Liverpool, who are going to play high energy pressing football. So no, wouldn't take Declan Rice. And then it'll all depend on the Bellingham thing, wouldn't it? I mean, you take Bellingham and a youngster now, and you don't. Whatever we're planning on doing, you don't block anyone's path. I think they're pretty good at doing that. You've got your list, and whenever you can get hold of one of the people on that list, you get them. If you can get them now, you get them now. If you can get, I mean, I'd pay a little bit of a premium to bring someone in now. If we've got someone who we can pick up for 25, 30, or a little 20 million, but attacky or something like that. If there's one of them on the list somewhere, I think maybe you bring one of them in. If you can now. That was another one. Japan not playing Taki. I don't even know what's going on with that. I mean, he's not great, but he's Champions League playing for us. I mean, surely he's got to get a game over some bum.
He's had a bad season though, hasn't he? He's not done anything for Monaco at all. He's not played that many games, been dropped. Maybe it's that. Because I agree with you. I mean, how can they not be picking him? But if he's not being in form and somebody else has, maybe it's that. I don't know. This penalty was a fucking disgrace, by the way. Japan's penalties are just the most fucking powder puff, half-assed penalties you've ever seen. It's like, if you're going to get knocked out on penalties, at least go out with like a committed penalty where like you leather it, and maybe you'll miss the target, maybe the keeper saves, but don't do that. Just don't do that. Like,
Japan's penalties were living into the cultural stereotype that Japanese people are polite. Like, we don't need to polite to score a penalty. Too polite to score.
The politest penalties you've ever seen.
And Jules, the Midnight Rambler also wants to know, who do we think will win the Super Bowl?
NFC side, it's difficult though. The NFC side, the Eagles are looking shit hot at the moment. Like, Jalen Hurts looked excellent. AFC side's a bit more difficult because the Bills and the Chiefs look like the standouts, and yet the Bengals keep beating the Chiefs. So if the Bengals, I don't know how the seedings would work at the moment, but if the Bengals met the Chiefs in the postseason, I think the Chiefs might have a problem.
The Bears still shit.
Yeah,
they're your team, aren't they, Dave? Yeah,
you can always rely on them being shit. I've divorced them now. I
just wanted to ask.
No, I have nothing to do with them anymore.
All right. For now, if they start 3-0 next season, you're right back in.
They won't though, will they? So
I should
moot
also
No,
point.
probably not.
I should also mention like I've really enjoyed seeing what Tua's done with the Dolphins as well this year, but I'm not sure
Yeah, me
they've got
too.
enough. I'm not sure they've got. I think that a couple of years ago they got to the playoffs, but they weren't a very good team, so they was just like a bit of a false thing them getting to the playoffs, and then the Steelers just smashed them everywhere.
Yeah, I
They're
remember
not that. They're not. They're not that team anymore. I think they'll have a good run, but I just don't think they'll have enough if they have to go on the road to Kansas City or Buffalo.
Well, that's my problem with that's my issue with the Dolphins. Really, it's just that we are quite similar to the Chiefs, and they're just a better version of us
Yeah.
all over the field. Like, so it would be a bad matchup for us because we do everything they do, only they do it slightly better. So on any given Sunday, you've got a chance in those shootout games, but I think we're maybe like a year away from competing for that. In terms of the Super Bowl, I think the Bills will win it. I think they should have won it last year. I think they'll find a way to sort of get into the Super Bowl this year, and I think the AFC is much stronger than the NFC this year. And if it's the Eagles, they'll beat the Eagles or the Cowboys or whatever. Dave,
Go Finns. That's
Go
all I got to
Finns.
say. You had my back on Suarez, so I'm with you on the Dolphins.
all right, thanks, man, appreciate that. And Stu, I'm assuming that you don't watch the
No, don't watch much NFL. I do quite like a bit of American football though. I watch all the documentaries
NFL
and stuff
films.
like that. Yeah, all the documentaries and stuff where it follows them through. I can't remember what the All or Nothing ones. I've watched all them, and from like a coaching point of view and stuff, I can watch anything about team sport. So yeah, I do like a bit of it. If it was on, I'd keep it on and watch it. But I've not got a team I follow or know who's really doing that well or not. If you know what I mean.
Dallas Cowboys then.
fair enough.
Yeah, the Brazil of the NFL.
Stu's back in the Cowboys.
Right. So I think we kind of addressed this, but if anybody's got a shout out for something someone we haven't mentioned yet, on Twitter, Terry Symes says he's not an advocate for buying anyone off the back of a World Cup, but have you seen anybody who you think would be a good fit for the Reds? And any of you can take that.
Amrabat.
Yeah, get my boy Amrabat in.
Yeah. Also, I like the Croatian centre back, Gvardiol or
Lovren?
something.
Yeah.
Well, obviously I like Lovren. Well, I did until like he just came out as like a raging like anti-vax lunatic. But no, I like the other centre back. He's been good. He's only 21, I think, as well. He looks a good player. I like a couple of the American players as well. We mentioned them before. Tyler Adams, Musa.
Yeah.
The right back was quite good as well. I think he's on Barcelona's books or something. Not that we need a right back. I'm not saying we should sign him, but I've liked the look of him. He was good.
I like Canada. They were a good watch. I don't think they didn't have any standout players in particular, but I really wanted them to pick up some points.
Yeah.
They were unlucky against Belgium. Belgium absolutely robbed that game. It would have been nice for Canada to take one win away with them, wouldn't it?
And I think we'll end on this one. And this wasn't the question. I just bastardised this question completely. He MJB1286. He asked a few, but he asked who's better, Messi or Ronaldo. But I'm going to reframe that and say, like, who is the bigger dick, Messi or Ronaldo? And Jules, you can go for that one first.
Now, I reckon I know what Dave's going to say, but I'm still going to say Ronaldo.
Okay. The recent evidence is just so strong against Ronaldo. Like, you
I mean, they are
both.
they
It would
are
have been an
both
easier
dicks.
argument.
Yeah, I mean, they're both dicks. We can acknowledge they are both dicks. Like Messi taking the Al Saudi Arabian coin when Argentina are trying to get a World Cup bid going. That's very good of him. And then obviously he's playing for Qatar in Paris and all that jazz. But no, I mean, Ronaldo's just like if Messi's a dick, Ronaldo's a massive, big, throbbing porn star one, isn't he? He's just a fucking, he's just a huge one. Yeah, no, it's Ronaldo for me.
No, it is Ronaldo. It's definitely Ronaldo.
Yeah.
All I would say is that the thing with Ronaldo is like, it's kind of just out in the open that he's a dick. You know, he's like, and I think he knows that himself. He knows like he's an arrogant bastard, and a lot of people don't like him. He just doesn't give a fuck. So he's like he is a dick, but he doesn't kind of pretend to be anything else. Messi's always tried to be like, oh, you know, I'm all right. I'm not the dickhead. Ronaldo's the dickhead. But Messi, you're a little twat as well. He's an absolute little fucking knob. But nobody ever seems to really talk about that. It's like he seems to just get away with it because Ronaldo's such a dick. People are so focused on what a dick Ronaldo is that Messi almost goes under the radar a little bit. But no, he's not as bad as Ronaldo, but he's probably worse than most other people in football.
Yeah, just with the on-the-pitch stuff, Ronaldo is still the bigger dick, isn't he? Before you even take into account the off-the-pitch shenanigans that sees him probably not going on holiday to America anytime soon. Even without them, Ronaldo is still the bigger dick, I think, isn't he?
Yeah.
I think my only, and this has been the case for more than a decade now.
You're not going to say, are you? I know what's going.
What? I'm not going to use the exact words, but it's the penalty he missed against Chelsea in the European Cup when they went on and won it.
He's never got over it.
He's just never got over it. Like, that game is dead and buried if he puts that penalty away. It's gone. Like, they aren't coming back from that. And sure enough, like, you know, I remember one of my like funnest moments with my friend who's also on the podcast, John Brennan, is I was working in London at the time and he'd come over with like a school trip and he'd had the Friday night free, so we met up in Westminster and had like a couple of beers, well, more than a couple, and one of my finest memories of that was like walking across Westminster Bridge, pointing at Big Ben and singing "Where's Your European Cups" at it. Because like a London club had never won a European Cup until this point, and Messi ruined that, and there was no need for it whatsoever. If he could score from 12 yards, they would have only had one European Cup, and it was the worst iteration of Chelsea. Well, it wasn't the worst. It wasn't the. It was the who won it? Was it Di Matteo was manager when they won it the first time?
Yeah, it was Di Matteo.
But they still had the Lampard and the Ashley Cole and the Terrys and basically like that Mourinho team, and I've never got over it. I never will. If Messi ends up signing for Miami next year, I might have a different story because I'll probably get a good bit of work out of that. So that'd be nice. But
that's presumably
to read
why.
It in a little bit then.
I'm assuming that's why you've not called him a Chelsea enabling cunt, which is what you usually refer to him
I
as.
never said that. I never said that.
Okay.
I just said I was upset at the fact that he enabled Chelsea to get a European Cup, but otherwise he's a fine, upstanding gentleman who's been one of the greatest football players of all time. But you just have a different memory of the scenario.
I was going to say, how good would it be if Messi and Ronaldo signed for Miami, and then I forgot that like Ronaldo's not allowed in America. That's not happening.
Well, that Times report the other day said that Miami are also trying to get Fabregas and Suarez to sort of sweeten the deal to get Messi over there.
Fabregas, he's still playing?
Is Fabregas still playing?
Yeah, I know.
Where is he? He's in the Middle East.
That confused me as well.
Is he in like Saudi or something like that?
No idea.
He's older than Arteta, isn't he?
So
Google that, find out.
He's only 35.
Yeah.
And he's playing in Serie B for Como.
No way.
That's quite cool.
Yeah.
I quite like that, playing Serie B. That's cool.
Weird.
All right. So yeah.
Fabregas.
Miami continuing the tradition of MLS just going for aging European stars when the whole direction of the league is to like young, not so much exciting, but young, athletic, skillful players who are sort of doing really well for their teams. But
if Suarez goes there, I might actually finally come over to see it if Suarez is playing for Miami.
Okay, all right. I'll let you know the dates that I'm not going to be there, and then you can fly like last time.
To be fair, you say
Right,
that about Miami, but this is the city that put the Formula One race in a car park of Hard Rock Stadium. So
We did, yeah, with a fake marina and painted water on the car.
Yeah, I couldn't even tell if they were trying to be ironic with her. I couldn't tell if they were just doing it to take the piss. Yeah.
No. Anyway, we've got through most of them. There were some other ones as well, but some of those were the ones that I'd kind of like to spend more time on discussing in depth, really. So let's leave it there. Is there anything you guys want to add before we call it a night tonight?
No, but we should probably come back after the 2 pre-season games, do you reckon? Just do like a recap of that.
Sounds good.
Cover those and whatever else needs talking about. Maybe like there'll be some ownership stuff going on, or more Bellingham. It's bound to be something happening over the next
Bellingham
week.
announcement podcast.
Yeah. Well, obviously there'll be an emergency pod if anything happens with that. We'll be straight on that one. But otherwise, yeah, we'll come back after the Milan game's on the Friday, isn't it? Play this Sunday, and then the Friday. So, yeah, we'll come back after that one.
Has Paul got a red phone on his desk for that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hotline straight through as soon as Bellingham signs.
Next to the Mbappe one, he still hasn't cut that line off yet.
The Mbappe one's like a Nokia 3210 or something, isn't it?
Yeah, he's had it that long.
All right, cool. Well, that sounds good to me. Yeah, for those of you that are enjoying watching the World Cup, I know it's not been the easiest to enjoy, but for those who are enjoying the World Cup, we hope you continue to do so. We'll be back soon on one of the second pre-season games, and yeah, until then, we'll catch you soon.
Well, the best word I can say, but will describe this was boom. Ooh, what was this? It was really good.